Hello, welcome my students. So today we are going to analyze one of the poems, Telephone Conversation by African poet Wole Soyinka. Wole Soyinka, whose full name was Akiwande Oluwole Babatunde Soyinka, was one of the most renowned playwright of Africa, and he was the first African to be awarded Nobel Prize. So during his lifetime, he engaged himself mostly with the plays. He was also a member of the Royal Theatre in London, working there for a long period. But along with the plays, he also wrote a good number of poems. And Wole Soyinka was a humanist, a champion of humanism, freedom, and the anti-apartheid movement. Born into the racial apartheid, Soyinka developed the sensibilities of bringing both the races together without any ill feeling. This particular poem, Telephone Conversation, is based on that racial apartheid or the racial abuse. But this poem is working at several levels. There are several levels of this poem. The primary level or the dominant level is that of the racial sensibility, but there is also the binary of man and woman, the binary of an urban and a tribal setting. But as we are going to discuss this poem for the general class, so I am not going into a very critical mode. I am not going to critically analyze the poem. So here we will be simply going through an analysis of the poem, and we will be looking at what will be the possible questions for the students of second semester. So the poem, Telephone Conversation, the price seemed reasonable, location indifferent. The landlady swore she lived off premises. Nothing remained but self-confession. So the poem begins in a conversation in the telephone where the speakers are invisible to each other, and the prices were reserved because the narrator is searching for a rented facility and the rent looked reasonable to him. There was no point of bargaining, and the location is indifferent because the person wants to stay in the city, and for him it is a strange place. So any place within the city is as good as any other. And on the other side there is a landlady. So as I told you, there is contrast in several layers. So the narrator in the conversation is a male, which you will come to know in the latter part of the poem. But the identity of the landlady, the other side of the telephone, the owner of the house, is a lady. And the speaker is telling, Madam, I hate a wasted journey. I am African. But immediately the narrator is coming to his identity as an African. That means he is in knowledge of the racial apartheid, the racial discrimination. And immediately we come to know that on the other side there is a white landlady. So the contrast of man and woman, the contrast of the white and the black. So he is an African. Silence. Silence, transmission of pressurized good breeding. And the narrator is immediately finding there is a silence. There is no enthusiasm in the talk. There is no talk. For a moment, there is a break. It dramatically conveys a sense of uneasiness, a sense of uncomfort. But silence, transmission of pressurized good breeding. But that silence is not the silence of any uncivilized person. It is the silence of a person who seems to be coming from good breeding. Voice, when it came, lipstick coated, long gold rolled cigarette holder pipe. There are visual imageries. Though the lady is not visible to the narrator, but the narrator can imagine from the very voice, which is so formal, which is so measured, that it is a lipstick coated voice. The lady with a lipstick and gold rolled cigarette somewhere hold in the corner of the mouth. That means the words were coming squeezed very haltingly in a civilized manner, as if they are being released by some pressure. But I was foully hard, how dark. I had not misread. Are you light or very dark? And from the other end, from the end of the lady, the questions are coming, and they are in capital letters because they are very much clear, very much bursting like the crackers on the face of or the ear of the narrator on the other end of the telephone. How dark? If you are African, how dark? Are you light or very dark? Is there any lightness in your darkness, or you are completely dark? So by bringing these words, what message is brought into the poem? The poet is trying to bring the layered mental condition of the white landlady who is representing the white race who are discriminating against the black. And button B, button A. So the narrator who is calling the landlady from a public booth, he is now confused what to do. Button B, in these booths of London, we find there is a button B and there is a button A. One button is to continue the conversation and another button is to discontinue. So he is confused whether he will continue after that or he will continue. Stench of rancid breathe of public hide and speak. So the narrator is feeling within him that disgust, that anguish of belonging to a race which is being hated, which is being discriminated in such a manner. So he is feeling as the victim of that racial abuse. The rancid breathe of public hide and speak. That breathe within that telephone booth which is full of the stench. Red booth. The booth is red in color. Red pillar box. The pillar box beside is also red. A red double-tired omnibus squelching tar. And the buses that are plying on the road, they are also red, the public buses. So these are all government properties. These are all public properties which equally belongs to the white and the black. But in spite of being in that public place, he feels anguished at being black, at being abused, at being discriminated. And he feels as if when the bus is moving and suddenly halting with a brake, as if the coal tar from the surface of the road is coming out with a screech. That type of feeling came to him. He was conversing with the lady about the house, but suddenly there is a break, as if from somewhere all the coal tar, all those hardened, suppressed feeling about the racial discrimination again came up in his mind. It was real. Shamed by ill-mannered silence, surrender pushed, dumbfounded to beg simplification. And at the same time, he feels shamed, being victimized by this. And there is a silence, and he thinks that his silence is ill-mannered. If he will remain silent, on the other side, the lady will consider him as ill-mannered, doesn't know how to respond. So, surrender. He surrenders against his own wish. In spite of not having the desire to continue, he continues. Considerate she was, wearing the emphasis, are you dark or very light? Again the lady is asking to ascertain that she is not renting out the house to a complete dark person. So she is trying to inquire, are you dark or very light? Are you light? So within these two questions is also hiding another layer of consciousness. That is, the lady wants to ascertain whether this black tenant, would-be tenant, knows his own worth in a white neighborhood. The moment you confess that I am dark or I am light, that means you accept everything. You accept that discrimination. Revelation came. You mean like plain or milk chocolate. Her accent was clinical, crushing in its light impersonality. And gradually, the woman is bringing out more elaboration in her inquiry. You mean like plain or milk chocolate? Are you like a milk chocolate? If you are colored, if you are black, or you are plain black. Her accent was clinical. She is very clinical without having any concern for the feeling of the person on the other side of the telephone. Crushing in its light impersonality, and it is crushing the impersonality as if this question is being asked personally. The receiver, the narrator, is finding as if he is being personally targeted, personally victimized, personally being estimated out of the black, whether he belongs to the light or very light or milk chocolate color, being individualized. Rapidly wavelength adjusted, I chose. But very rapidly he could gather himself. He could make himself come to his sense out of that shock, and he is telling West African sepia, and as afterthought, down in my passport. First he is telling, I am West African sepia, and next moment he is telling, it is written in my passport. So according to my passport, there is no color mentioned. Passports don't give anything on the color, but passport gives my identity as West African sepia. I belong to West Africa. And sepia, it is a word which is trying to reveal the disgust in the mind of the narrator and the pride in belonging to the African tribe. Silence for spectroscopic flight of fancy till truthfulness changed her accent. After hearing this statement, the lady on the other side again became silent. But the narrator is feeling as if in this silence, she is trying to analyze her victim as if he is under the spectroscope, as if she is trying to fix him somewhere in different shades of black. In the spectroscope means where we find different colors being arranged according to their shades. So she is trying as if to look at somewhere where the different shades of black are there, and she is trying to ascertain that her tenant belongs to one of the shades. Flight of fancy till truthfulness changed her accent, and she became truthful. She wants to speak out her mind, though the narrator first thought there may be something going to happen, as if his words have shattered the lady. But the lady is now changing her accent, clanged her accent with truthfulness, hard on the mouthpiece. What's that? The lady is asking, what's that? What's that West African sepia? Conceding, don't know what that is. And the lady is telling, I don't know. What is that? I don't know about sepia. like brunette, that means you are like a brunette. Brunette means a woman or a girl with black hair. So she is trying to ascertain that do you have black hair, but your body color is light. That's dark, isn't it? If you are like brunette, if you are like the black hair, isn't that dark? Not altogether facially. I am brunette, but madam, you should see the rest of me. And now the narrator has entered into his own and trying to retaliate by his words. So he is telling, not altogether facial, he is telling, on my face I am not as dark as the black hair of a brunette. But madam, you should see the rest of me. But other parts of my body you should see for yourself. I see my face is not that dark as the black hair. Palm of my hand, soles of my feet are a peroxide blonde. So he is telling, the palms of my hand and the soles of the feet, which are generally of light color than our skin, is telling, even my sole of the feet and palm of the hand, they are peroxide blonde. You know, peroxide, which is used in coloring our hair, is telling the color of my palm and the color of my sole under the feet, they are peroxide blonde. Friction caused foolishly, madam, by sitting down has turned my bottom raven black. And then he is telling, foolishly, madam, by sitting down, if I sit down, has torn my bottom raven black. My bottom, they are like raven black. Raven means the big crows, which are extremely dark, extremely black. He is telling, my bottoms are extremely black like the raven. One moment, madam. Sensing her receiver rearing on the thunderclap, and he was going on, he was going to describe other parts of his body. He is trying to tease the woman. He is trying to tell her different shades of his body. If she wants to know exactly what type of darkness is there in his color, so he is also going to give an account of different parts of his body with the different shades of darkness. But from the other side, the lady put the receiver on the cradle with a thunderclap. That means disgust. She dismissed the call out of disgust, feeling insulted by this black man. About my ears, madam, I pleaded. Wouldn't you rather see for yourself? But the narrator is going on because he was in the middle of elaborating different parts of his body. So finally he is telling, madam, I pleaded. Wouldn't you rather see for yourself? So won't you just see for yourself how different parts of my body looks like? And this is a contrast. Again, I told that this poem is having several layers. So this final line is having the contrast with the line when he said in the early part of the poem that Madam, I hate a wasted journey. I don't want to go and visit you if you don't allow me to be your rentee. But here he's telling, don't you want to see? That means he's prepared even to go to the lady's place to show his blackness, show his color in its vivid exhibition, because he is angry, he feels insulted, he feels anguished, and he feels as if he is the victim of this racial insensibility. So in this manner, the poem ends. But from this poem, what type of questions we are going to prepare? As because it is for the general syllabus, I am not going to analyze it from other technical sides like that of the language, use of the dialogue form. Because in general paper, we will be facing quite straightforward questions like issues of racism and prejudice, or the telephonic conversation as a tool of satire. So this poem is a satire. This poem is a satire on the racial apartheid sensibility. This is a satire on the hypocrisy of the white people and their so-called civilization and their so-called civilizational mission. Because white civilization, in the name of white man's burden, went to colonize different parts of the world, and they have colonized the black people, the brown people, the colored people, but they themselves are not respecting the values of civilization. They are not respecting the sensibilities of the other people. So this poem is a straightforward satire on the so-called civilized white people. And that too, this poem is a satire because the poet is imagining on the other side from that voice that it is lipstick coated, gold rolled, cigaretted voice. So the lady must be belonging to a respectable family, a good family, but in spite of that, she doesn't know that she is hurting the sentiment of a simple black person because he is only black in color, for which he is not responsible. And the satire is also there about the whole process, the whole administration, the passport, presenting him as West African sepia without giving any reference to the discrimination or the discriminating identities. This poem in this manner is highly satirical, and already we have discussed that this is a poem which is having racial prejudice. So I hope you will follow this poem and you will be able to write your answers. Thank you.